Have you ever noticed how some people love to test your limits? They interrupt, make passive-aggressive comments, or act as if your time and feelings don't matter, expecting you to simply smile and let it slide. Not today. If you're tired of dealing with people who don't respect you, this video is for you. Today, I'll share straightforward, honest, and maybe a little controversial ways to handle disrespect without losing your cool or compromising your self-respect. Get ready. By the end of this, you'll have all the tools you need to show people exactly where the line is drawn. Let's dive in. Point 1. Use the silent stare. Let's start with one of my favorite techniques. It's bold but incredibly effective, the silent stare. You might be thinking, really? Just staring? Yes, trust me. When someone is being rude or disrespectful, nothing throws them off more than a calm, steady, and completely emotionless stare. Here's why it works. People who disrespect others are usually looking for a reaction. They want to see you stammer, get uncomfortable, or lash out. They're trying to pull you into their drama, make you doubt yourself, or bring you down. But when you simply look at them, without saying a word or reacting, it flips the script. The power dynamic shifts. Now, I get it. This might sound a little passive-aggressive, but let me explain. There's something deeply unsettling for someone who thrives on provoking others when they don't get the reaction they expect. A silent, unblinking stare communicates, without words. I'm not playing this game with you. It's a way to take back control without even lifting a finger. Sometimes the silent stare is the clearest and most powerful no you can give. Let me share an example of when this technique worked perfectly. I was in a group meeting, and this guy kept interrupting me, talking over everyone as if his opinion was the only one that mattered. You know the type: loud, overly confident, assuming the room revolves around him. I tried being polite, but he wouldn't stop. So finally, I just looked at him. I leaned back in my chair, crossed my arms, and kept my gaze fixed on him. No blinking, no expression, just silence. For about 5 seconds, the room went quiet. And then, others in the group started looking at him too, waiting to see what he'd do. What happened next? He got flustered, stumbled over his words, and avoided looking at me for the rest of the meeting. He didn't interrupt me again. That silent stare did more than any words I could have said, and it didn't stop there. After that, he began treating me with more respect, as if he finally realized I wasn't someone he could easily dismiss. Sometimes you have to show people who you are without saying a word, but this technique is more than just a power play. When you use the silent stare, you're reminding both the other person and yourself that you don't have to engage with negativity. You don't owe anyone an emotional reaction, and you don't need to prove your worth to someone who refuses to see it. It's about reclaiming your space, your peace, and your dignity. Often, when someone disrespects us, we feel the urge to defend ourselves, explain, or worse, let it slide to avoid conflict. But the silent stare isn't about aggression, it's about standing firm, calm, and unshaken in the face of disrespect. This approach also holds people accountable. Disrespectful behavior often happens without much thought. People like this are rarely confronted or made to face the consequences of their negativity. When you give them that steady, silent gaze, it's like holding up a mirror to their behavior. Suddenly, they're left to sit with their actions. You're not telling them they're wrong, you're showing them. And most people don't like what they see in that reflection. That's why this technique is so effective. I've found that the silent stare not only makes others back off but also strengthens your own sense of self-worth. Standing there, calm and unbothered, reminds you that their words or actions don't have the power to shake you. I used to be the type of person who would nervously laugh or try to justify myself when someone made rude comments. But that only drained my energy and made me feel worse. Learning to simply stare, letting the silence do the talking, was a game changer. It's a subtle act of resistance, a quiet declaration of self-respect. So if someone is being rude, overstepping boundaries, or making you feel small, try the silent stare. Just look at them. Let them sit with the weight of your calmness. You might be surprised at how uncomfortable it makes them, and how empowering it feels for you. The silent stare sends the message: I respect myself too much to be dragged into your negativity. and that's a powerful statement. 2. Embrace silence as a response. Here's another underrated but highly effective tool: silence. When someone disrespects you, one of the most powerful responses is no response at all. I know what you might be thinking. Silence sounds passive, like you're letting them get away with it, right? But in reality, silence is far from passive. It's a deliberate choice, and in many situations, it's the loudest and most impactful response you can give. When someone is throwing negativity your way, trying to drag you into their drama, or making you feel defensive, silence can be the ultimate way to handle it. It's not about ignoring the problem. It's about refusing to give it power over you. When you don't react, when you let someone's words linger in the air without responding, it forces them to confront their own behavior. That silence is powerful. Now, let's break down why this works so effectively. People who disrespect others are usually looking for a reaction. They want to spark an argument, seek justification, or validate their behavior in some way. But silence sends a clear message: you're not willing to waste your energy. By not reacting, you take control of the situation and make it clear that you won't tolerate disrespect. Sometimes, the most effective way to communicate is by choosing not to say anything at all. It's a subtle reminder that the person isn't worth your time or words. I remember a situation where someone couldn't help but make unpleasant comments. The kind of person who hides insults behind jokes and pretends they're harmless. One day, this person made an unnecessary remark about my work, clearly trying to provoke a reaction. Normally, I would have tried to explain myself or even retaliate with a comment of my own. But this time, I just looked at them, raised an eyebrow, and stayed silent. I let their words hang in the air, allowing the silence to create an awkward pause. And you know what happened? They didn't know how to respond. They looked at me, then looked down, mumbled something, and moved on. That moment was the last time they tried to act that way toward me. They realized that without a reaction, there was nothing to gain. That's the power of silence. Sometimes, silence denies disrespect the attention it craves. On a deeper level, choosing silence means choosing yourself. You're saying, I value my peace more than your opinion of me. That's not just empowering, it's transformative. Too often, we feel pressured to respond, justify our choices, or prove our worth to people who, deep down, have no intention of respecting us. By embracing silence, you refuse to play by their rules. You're taking a stand without lifting a finger. You're making it clear: you're not worth my words. It's not just about controlling the situation, it's about preserving your energy. Silence acts as a filter, protecting your peace by blocking out the negativity others try to throw at you. The moment you stop feeling the need to respond to every rude comment or passive-aggressive jab, you free yourself. You stop giving people access to your inner world and start living on your own terms. I'll admit, learning to use silence wasn't easy for me. I used to think that if I didn't defend myself, I'd seem weak or passive. But I noticed something interesting. Every time I responded to people who disrespected me, I ended up feeling drained and frustrated. On the other hand, when I chose silence, letting their comments fade into background noise, I felt lighter, stronger, and more in control. It was as if I reclaimed a piece of my power every time I chose silence over reaction. So here's my challenge to you: the next time someone disrespects you, pause, take a deep breath, look them in the eye, and say nothing. Let your silence speak for itself. You might be surprised by how uncomfortable it makes them, and how liberating it feels for you. Use silence as your response. Because sometimes, saying nothing is the most powerful statement you can make. Stop explaining your choices now. Let's talk about something many of us need to hear. Stop explaining your choices. Seriously, how many times have you made a decision, only for someone to immediately ask why? Why did you do that? Why didn't you go to that event? Why did you take that job? People seem to think they're entitled to an explanation for everything we do. But here's the truth: they're not. Your choices are yours. You don't owe anyone an explanation for how you live your life. It might sound controversial, but think about it. When someone questions your choices, it's often not to understand, they're looking to judge. They want to point out flaws, make you doubt yourself, or feel better about their own decisions by making you second guess yours. And you know what? You don't have to play along. When you stop explaining yourself, you reclaim your autonomy and show that your life isn't up for debate. Let's explore why people feel so entitled to demand explanations in the first place. When someone questions your choices, it's often because your decision challenges their worldview. Maybe you're taking a risk they're too afraid to take. Or maybe you're stepping out of a norm they find comfortable. Your independence or willingness to do things differently can make them uncomfortable. Asking for an explanation is their way of trying to pull you back into their comfort zone. But here's the key: just because they're uncomfortable doesn't mean you're responsible for easing their discomfort. Your life isn't a public service announcement. You don't need to justify your choices to anyone. I remember when I decided to switch careers, leaving a stable job for something I was truly passionate about, even though it came with more risk. When people found out, it was as if I'd announced I was moving to Mars. They asked why I'd leave a secure job and how I planned to make it work. At first, I tried to explain, talking about how I wanted something more fulfilling and how I had a plan. But no matter what I said, it never seemed to be enough. The more I explained, the more questions came, poking holes and making me feel like I had to justify myself. Then one day, I decided to change my approach. When someone asked why I'd left that job, I simply said, "Because I wanted to." No extra details, no elaboration, just a straightforward answer. And let me tell you, it was liberating. The silence that followed was telling. People didn't know how to react because I'd taken away their power to question my choices. And you know what? They eventually stopped asking. Here's the beauty of not explaining yourself: it's freeing. It's standing firm in your decisions, knowing they're valid simply because you made them. When you stop justifying your actions, you give yourself permission to live authentically, free from the burden of other people's expectations. Instead of wasting energy on explanations, you can redirect that energy toward living the life you truly want. There's an important lesson here. Your life doesn't need external approval. Not every decision requires analysis or acceptance from others. When you stop explaining yourself, you send a message that you're confident enough in your choices to not need validation from anyone. Think about it. When was the last time you saw someone truly confident justifying every decision they made? Probably never, because people who are in control of their lives don't seek external validation. They understand that the only approval that truly matters is their own. I've been there. I used to be the kind of person who would offer long explanations for every decision, trying to get others on board. But over time, I realized that justifying myself to everyone only made me question my own choices even more. So, I made a commitment to myself. When someone asked about a decision I made, I would answer briefly, in 1 or 2 sentences. If they pushed for more, I would simply smile and change the subject. And you know what happened? My life became lighter. The less I explained, the more confident I felt in my decisions. Now I challenge you to do the same. The next time someone questions your choices, resist the urge to explain. Say something simple like, "Because I wanted to," or "It felt right for me." Then let the silence speak for itself. You'll notice how powerful such a simple response can be. You'll feel stronger, more in control, and at peace with yourself. And the best part? You'll realize that your choices don't need anyone else's approval. They're valid simply because you made them. Keep your distance when necessary. Let's be honest, sometimes, the best way to handle people who don't respect you is to create some distance. It might sound harsh, or even a bit cold, but the truth is, not everyone deserves a close place in your life. If someone consistently disrespects you, one of the healthiest decisions you can make is to put space between you and them. This doesn't mean you hate them or that you're being dramatic. It simply means you respect yourself enough to protect your energy. Keeping your distance isn't about being rude or ignoring people. It's about consciously deciding where and how to spend your time and energy. Think of your life as an exclusive space. Not everyone gets unlimited access. If someone constantly crosses your boundaries, makes you feel small, or radiates negativity, why keep them close? It's perfectly okay to step back. In fact, it's essential. Distance brings clarity. It allows you to see the situation for what it really is, free from emotional manipulation or guilt. Think about it. When you keep disrespectful people close, it's like letting them drain your mental and emotional energy without limits. And then we wonder why we feel exhausted, anxious, or frustrated. Creating space from these people is an act of self-preservation. It's about protecting your mental health, maintaining your peace, and making room for those who truly value you. Letting go of the guilt associated with distancing yourself from toxic people is incredibly liberating. You're not obligated to keep people in your life who treat you poorly. Let me share a personal experience. I had a friend who constantly made demeaning comments about my choices, whether it was my career, my relationships, or even my taste in music. At first I thought, that's just how they are, and convinced myself I was overreacting. So I kept them around, brushing off the comments, thinking it wasn't a big deal. But over time, those little digs started to get under my skin. I realized I was constantly on edge, waiting for the next critical remark. One day, I decided to take a different approach. I didn't make a big announcement or confront them. I just started limiting the time I spent with them. Instead of seeing them weekly, I saw them maybe once a month. And you know what happened? I felt lighter. I felt freer. That distance gave me the clarity to see just how toxic that friendship had become. It made me realize I deserved friends who uplifted me, not ones who tore me down. Some people might say that keeping their distance is selfish. They might argue, but they're family. Or, you've been friends for years. But here's the truth, protecting your peace isn't selfish. It's necessary. You're not here to be someone's emotional punching bag or constant source of validation. Sometimes, the best way to show that you've had enough is to step back. Keeping your distance is a powerful reminder to yourself that you are your own priority. You're not obligated to play a role that others have assigned to you. You don't owe anyone access to your mind, your time, or your emotions. By creating space between yourself and disrespectful people, you're making a statement that your well-being comes first. And that's not just self-care, it's self-respect. When you create space between yourself and disrespectful people, you're affirming that your well-being comes first. This isn't just self-care, it's self-respect. Distance also allows you to focus on the relationships that truly matter, the ones that value and support you. The more time you spend with people who respect you, the stronger and more fulfilled you'll feel. On the other hand, the less time you give to those who disrespect you, the less influence they'll have on your thoughts, mood, and life. I'll admit, in the past, I felt guilty about distancing myself from people, even when they didn't treat me well. I'd wonder, what if they think I don't care? What if I'm overreacting? But over time, I realized that respecting my own boundaries wasn't just necessary, it was fair to myself. Over time, I learned that distancing myself from negative people wasn't just about avoiding conflict, it was about making space for my own growth. When I allowed myself to step back from those who disrespected me, I felt a sense of freedom I'd never experienced before. I had more energy, more peace, and a clearer vision of the kind of people I truly wanted in my life. Now, here's a challenge for you. Think about the people in your life who constantly disrespect you, who make you feel small or drained. Then ask yourself, do these people really deserve this much access to me? Hold your head high. Let's talk about something simple yet incredibly powerful: holding your head high. I know this might sound like common advice, but trust me, it's an effective strategy when dealing with people who don't respect you. Here's the reality: when someone is disrespectful, their goal is often to make you feel inferior. They want you to doubt yourself, lower your gaze, and retreat. But when you stand tall, keep your shoulders back, and hold your head high, you're sending a clear message without saying a word. I know exactly who I am, and nothing you say or do will change that. The impact of this is profound. Confidence tends to unsettle disrespectful people. Why? Because they operate under the assumption that their words or actions have the power to influence or control you. When you refuse to let disrespect affect you, when you literally straighten your posture and hold your head high, you show them that they have no power over you. This response throws them off balance and makes them question their own influence rather than your worth. I remember a situation where someone couldn't help but make demeaning comments every time we met. always with that smug grin, masking their criticism as jokes. At first, I tried to ignore it, but it really got under my skin. I started avoiding this person, bracing myself for their comments whenever I couldn't point. One day, I decided I wouldn't let it bother me anymore. I showed up, adjusted my posture, kept my head high, and every time they made a negative comment, I calmly looked them in the eye, smiled, and carried on as if their words meant nothing. And you know what happened? They stopped. It was as if they realized their words no longer reached me, that I was above that kind of behavior. Suddenly, their power disappeared. There's something incredibly transformative about holding your head high. It's a silent declaration of self-worth that says, I'm untouchable. Disrespectful people often can't stand seeing confidence in someone they aim to belittle. It challenges the way they see themselves in relation to others. They want to believe they're superior or that they hold some control over you. But when you carry yourself with self-assurance, you shatter that illusion. Here's the most important part. Holding your head high isn't about them, it's about you. It's about recognizing your worth and living as someone who knows they deserve respect. When you stand tall, you're making a clear statement about your self-esteem. You're saying you consider yourself worthy of respect, regardless of what others may think or say. The key is understanding that your value doesn't come from others' opinions. It's something you define and claim for yourself. Walking through life with your head held high is a constant reminder that you already have everything you need within you. For me, this shift didn't happen overnight. I used to be the person who avoided eye contact, slouched, and tried to disappear when faced with criticism or negativity. It felt safer to shrink away. But over time, I realized that every time I stood firm and held my head high, I felt stronger. It was as if I was reaffirming to myself, over and over, that I didn't need anyone's approval to feel valuable. Holding your head high isn't just about physical posture, it's about mental posture too. Walk into every room as if you belong there. Don't shrink yourself to fit into someone else's expectations. If someone makes a snide remark or acts disrespectfully, let it slide off your shoulders. The issue isn't you, it's the insecurity they're projecting. Here's my challenge to you. The next time someone disrespects you, whether it's a subtle dig or an outright insult, don't react impulsively. Take a deep breath, straighten your shoulders, and hold your head high. Look them in the eye calmly, as if to say, I see what you're trying to do, but I'm above it. You'll feel a surge of confidence and a sense of peace from realizing that their words or actions hold no power over you. Holding your head high is more than just good posture. It's a powerful, silent statement of self-respect. It says, I know who I am, I value who I am, and nothing you say or do will change that.